Hi, very good evening. It's the mid of April 2025. On behalf of Hutton's Lending Division, I welcome all of you. I think we'll give about 5 more minutes before we start the webinar. And perhaps while waiting, we can do a fun quiz first. Okay, so perhaps you can share with us whether you're attending this webinar for the first time. So we launch this. And throughout the webinar, if there's any questions, feel free to ask, post your questions to the panelists. And then throughout the webinar, we will try our best to answer as many of them as possible. Okay. Let's give a few more minutes before we start officially. About 3 more minutes, we will start. It's wet weather today. There are a lot of things that we would like to know from basically all the attendees and the participants, right? Like, for example, how do you get to know about this, etc. But due to time constraints, we really appreciate all of you, those who have responded. Either is it for yourself to learn more information, or I think supporting also Hutton's Lending Division in our client and our consumer engagement activities. Okay. So we have now, how many? 20 over? Okay, let's just wait for a while. 60% are saying this is your first time. 39% no. Good. Like, for example, and know those who are attending not the first time, what is the reason for following us again? You could share with us also later. Okay, a few more minutes, we will start. And start to think about the questions that you have. Right? I think this will be one of the most interesting, if not also quite polarizing results that we have ever done in the past many quarters. By the way, you could see many faces in the various screens here. These are all the district ICs. And they were using just my screen to share so that to minimize disturbance, I think, later. Okay. Okay, so we have 63% attending the first time. Okay, good. What do you hope to find out today? Are you a landed buyer, seller? Are you sitting on the fence? Are you looking at terrace, semi-detached? What are the questions that you have besides whether price is going up or not? Do you know, by the way, prices is just one factor, right, of a landed house. Of course, that affects our wallets. But besides that, there's a lot more things that goes into determining what is the most suitable house for either for your purchase. Same for sellers as well. You might be holding on to a house. By the way, we have a lot of landed buyers and sellers of our own team who are attending this, either this or via the YouTube video recording, all right, that we send after that. Okay, good evening, those who just joined. If you just join and see this screen, don't be alarmed. We're just trying to see how many, just do a simple poll, how many are attending this for the first time. Okay, and then we'll start the webinar very soon. Yeah, one of the questions we'd like to know is, among the many districts, where are you from? Or where are you looking at now? Are you in the process of selling? Are you in the process of buying? Are you thinking of making a move in the next 3 to 6 months? And of course, a big question later, a topic that we're going to touch on is the current world affairs affecting your confidence to move forward, right? It has been the most interesting, maybe 15 days or 2 weeks. And of course, the first 3 months as well, right? Okay, so let's end the poll. So we have now about 67, two-thirds, okay, two-thirds. I've said that let me just activate this. Okay, two-thirds of you are attending this for the first time. Again, warm welcome. And one-third of you have followed this before. Again, thank you very much for that. All right, so officially, let's start. Welcome to the 2025 first quarter of landed market analysis or landed market consumer webinar by Hutton's Landed Division, where we in HLD provides an in-depth analysis of the complex landed property market so that landed stakeholders like buyers and sellers, which you can obtain very comprehensive insights and be empowered with useful knowledge that will help you to make better purchase, sale, or investment decisions. My name is Willie, and together with my teammates here from, there's some accolades, by the way, of me and my team. All right, together with my teammates from the Hutton's HLD management team, I have here Michael, Cindric, Will is unfortunately can't join us today, Jason, Sean, as well as Justin. You will hear from them very shortly, as this, I call them my experts, all right, our team's experts in their respective area. We'll be running this team for more than 10 years, and obviously they have a lot of insights to share with you, right? And then fortunately, we've been featured in some of these articles, media articles. If not, you can go online or get the details from our teammates, okay? And very importantly, we won't be here without, of course, our teammates from HLD Hutton's Landed Division. And a lot of you hear from us from the various social media channels that you can see from our website, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, etc. If you have not seen this before, you can just go to any of them and choose or search for Hutton's Landed Division, all right, to get more information. Again, this is not the first time. I think a lot of people follow us because of the quarterly market analysis that we have been launching and sharing as early as about 5-6 years ago, even before COVID, because we believe that before we can advise our clients, I think it's important for us to know first. And now we're passing on the knowledge, all right, as much and as openly as possible to all the landed buyers and sellers out there. Okay. If you have missed the last one that we did, which is a very comprehensive overlook of 2024 full year landed market results, you can scan this QR code. If not, you can go to YouTube, all right, to find out more. All right, there are a lot of learnings. Of course, it was to summarize that year, it was another good year, though it has slowed down versus the previous year. But I think it was the various changes across the different districts and house types that caught a lot of people, even people who are in the market, all right, by a pleasant surprise. Okay. Disclaimer, a lot of data all the data we present today is as of 5 days ago, right, 10th of April. And as much as we want to present the most accurate data, we hope you understand that we should not be held accountable for any misrepresentation or use of the information to your decision, right, to make your decision. Okay. Now, today we're going to touch on many topics again. So starting with basically first part on the total landed market. All right. We are not just talking about just one value or one index. We're going to segment the market into many areas. This is the first time the two-thirds of you who are coming in, a lot of numbers will be interesting. Might be the first time you're seeing this, but yet they are so fundamental, right? For you to first understand before you can go into every house to understand the difference. I think it's important for us to look at the big picture first, okay? A big topic today, in fact, the core topic we're going to talk about today is the global trade war and how it's going to affect the landed market. After that, we're going to go to the various districts, right, from Northeast, East, West, and Central region before we attempt to conclude this at about 9:30, if not before 10 o'clock today, all right? Okay, so let's start with you're ready? Pen and paper, maybe screenshot our handphone if you want. Okay, this is the first slide, which is about Q1 transaction value, okay, based on per square feet. So if you look at the slide, okay, you can see this blue line has crossed and reached a new high. And if you remember or recall, 3 months ago, we did anticipated that this 2025 will be the first year that we will cross an average of $2,000 per square feet. And this has happened faster than usual, right? This has caught up basically in the first quarter at 3.7%, okay? Cross 2,000 per square feet now. So for people who are thinking, especially let's say buyers thinking that the price will drop, hopefully this does not catch you by surprise, because from the market, we are seeing very healthy growth, not just in terms of value, but also in terms of volume. Now, despite dropping by 11%, okay, so by the way, you can look at the bars here. By the way, the colors means yellow was the first one, green means yes, improved versus the previous quarter, red is a decline, right? So if you take a look at basically first quarter of that has just passed. Volume has dropped now to about 400 units by 11%. Okay, but this is still the highest in the last, if on based on adjust for seasonality, right? This is higher from 2024 and even 2023. You can see this 2 years where the prices were increasing. Okay, so it's still a very commendable volume compared to previous years. And at 400 units, if we extrapolate this throughout there, because quarter one traditionally is the slower quarter. So with this Q2, Q3 should pick up and we may hit, who knows, maybe even the volume for last year. All right. But although at the beginning of the year, this is what we actually predicted. If you recall, 3 months ago, for the 1/3 of you who joined us earlier, this was our overall forecast then. Okay. We forecasted that the value will increase marginally, plus about 2 to 3%. And at 3.7%, we are almost, sorry, it's actually progressing faster than what we expected. Why and how and in what areas, later we'll find out, right? Soon. And volume, I think we're quite on trend, which is we predicted that it will not be as fast as last year due to various reasons, which I'll elaborate later. Okay, so now it's at minus 11%. So Q1, not too bad, I think, to my team here, who has, of course, we gather our forecast, I think not just one plucking a number in the air, but because all of us, including my management team here, we are on the ground in doing landed basically every, not just Saturday, Sunday, Mondays to Fridays as well, right? Talking to landed buyers, sellers, trying to understand what is, to gather some insights, what is the current trend now, what is the current climate in terms of people buying and selling. Okay. Knowing that number alone, the 3.7, I think that's not the only way. By the way, this is the first slide among many that I think pull a lot of clients and our buyers and the stakeholders, right, to follow us, because I think this is the most comprehensive landed market analysis in terms of how deep we dived right into the numbers to dissect it and then give a very meaningful understanding of the market. Okay, so the first way we're going to dissect it is via the price range. Okay, we simply put, we just put low, medium, high. No offense to those who are under, let's say, for example, low, right? So we classify under below $5 million, 5 to 10, and above $10 million for ease of understanding. Okay, ease of understanding. So the percentage you see here is about more than half actually below 5, then slightly less than half are the 5 million, and of course, the 10 million. So this quarter, okay, now you take a look at this slide. On the left side will be basically the price range. After that, you have quarter 4 and then quarter 1. And then, of course, the changes here. Many numbers here, try to get used to it, but I'm going to summarize and pull your attention to what is the important trend that we can see. All right, among the 400 plus transactions, it's made up of all this. And the first thing that you could see, if I split them or classify them into the 3 various price range, okay, below 5, 5 to 10, and then above 10. You can see very starkly, number one, below $5 million, the volume has actually dropped. Okay, dropped to minus 18%. And where did the growth go to? It grew to the segment above $10 million. Right, this is a quarter we call blockbuster quarter, where a lot of the transactions are above $10 million. If we have to do a simple tabulation, it's among the highest. All right, more about 20%, 1/5 of all transactions are above 10 million. Does that mean that the lower end clients, those buyers who are upgrading, I think from the HDBs and condos, holding back? And do you see some of the richer, more wealthy clients entering the market? Does that spell more interest or confidence in the market that we do not know of? I think the next few slides will give you a better answer. Okay, so there's one conclusion that we see, and you can also see the weightage now, all right, of under 5 million, the lower end actually reduced versus 10 million, all right? So you can see a big change in the percentage from 56 to 52, and of course, above 10 million crossing 10% now. Okay, now next way we can take a look is basically looking at the average price. Remember, 3.7% is, by the way, 3.7%, that is based on PSF. Another way that we can take a look or understand the market is to look at the average price. Okay, the average price. So overall, total Singapore, can you see here, right? The average price of property transacted was 5.75 million before. And now it has crossed for the first time an average of 6.5 all right, 6.15, if not $6.2 million. This is an even higher increase than the PSF that was reflected, right, at almost 7%. Okay, it means that the price of an average property transacted has actually gone up, but the size is actually more or less about the same, about 3,001 square feet. Okay, but where did the incremental wealth comes from? Just now we really saw quite a lot above $10 million, right? But this goes across various price range. For example, can you see the average price? If you can see my cursor here, okay. Actually, the biggest jump are in the $12 to $20 million, right? On this side, both have increased by 5% each, whereas the rest are more or less flat. And then GCBs has a bit of drop, therefore it's dropped by about 10% here. Okay. You can screenshot this if you want to, but again, if you need these slides, you can go to any of your vendor consultants. Now, what are some of the highlights that we can see from first quarter? Firstly, volume has dropped, okay, but grew by 28%. Value has grown. And interestingly, you saw the changes in the movement in the opposite directions, that the lower value segment and the higher value segments have increased. Usually, typically when this happens, okay, it could see, I think, a shift in terms of the wealth distribution, in terms of the landed market volume transactions, right? So with more people buying higher value properties, higher value properties, in months to come, that may translate, because some of these owners may be downgrading or downsizing or right sizing to, let's say, the $5 to $10 million. And what is interesting, the movement across the various price range. Okay, size of houses we mentioned is about the same size, but at a higher average price of plus 7%. Okay, does that surprise you? It did. Every quarter when we look at the numbers, it's very interesting. But what is more important is what has contributed to this. All right, for the past 3, 4, almost this is coming to the 5th year after COVID. Of course, first 3 years after that, we have seen, if you follow our webinars, it has grown by double digit every year, right, until 2024, and it started to slow down. Even though there's a lot of economic uncertainty, there is basically a threat of wars, there's also, even before the current tariff situation, you realize that the fundamentals in Singapore are still very strong, such as a strong population growth, economic and income growth as well, reinvestment. Okay, this is very interesting. Reinvestment from post-COVID profits, which we described and analyzed and shared in greater details in the previous webinar, right? So we have never seen as many the shorter so-called turnover as in the last 5 years, where people from 2021, some from 22, making sufficient profit in just 3 to 4 years and rechanneling the money and the profits back into the landed segment, all right? Either within landed or a lot, actually, what we saw are the non-landed, that means condos and HDBs classes entering into the landed market, right? Interest rates has also declined, I think, from the high of 4.5% just 2 years ago, and now it's back to about 2.5%. And of course, financial market returns in terms of stocks, etc. Okay, so to answer why Q1 is still strong, still growing strongly, despite things that we have seen or the risk that have experienced, I think we owe this credit to a very strong local market, right? Now, this therefore comes, will this change after this current global tariffs war? All right. If you're in the news, you probably have seen from many sources, US, they call this Liberation Day. We have the president introducing tariffs from the beginning of 10%. Now it's 125%, 145% retaliation from China, etc. Now, this really changes everything, doesn't it? Right? So before I go into, I think, some of the deeper analysis, maybe we can do a very simple fun poll first for those who are following this poll, the tariff situation. Let me try to see. I'm just curious, or we are just curious to see. Do you think, of course, you know there's a lot of U-turn from US, right? Let me see whether I can launch this. Wait a minute. Okay. Why don't we hear from you? Do you think 90 days later, US will stop the tariffs, right? Or do you think today what's happened today? I think latest news was about them making an exception on electronic products. Okay, but of course there are also analysts who say that this is just a temporary temporary pause because they are going into the different components, examining the entire supply chain to see where, of course, all this, by the way, is targeted at China, right? What are the things that will hurt them the most, etc. I mean, I'm all no opinion. I've seen so many different opinions on this, but frankly, this I will call almost nonsensical tariffs. People say it's ego-led. People say it has a lot of personal agenda or ulterior motive in manipulating the stock market, etc. I think the financial or the global trade community has never been more worried before, right? Has never been more worried before. So let's see, what do you think? Okay. So let's see. You want to see the results? Okay. So this is what you think. Can you see the results? Can see? Got it, right? Right. So it seems that all of you are probably more optimistic than me. You feel that 71% of you feel that less tariffs will be implemented in the the months to come, whereas only 30% of you think that there's more tariffs. Okay, more tariffs. Do you think tariffs are good, bad? And how would it impact us? I think what is undeniable is whether it will go up or go down in terms of the number of tariffs and the components, right? In terms of the segments or the countries that's affected, is that the damage has already been done. Okay, the damage has already been done. You can see now there's a lot of supply chain disruption now. People dare not make investments because you don't know what kind of products, what type of goods is going to change, is going to be affected. All right. There's a lot more analysis, a lot more comments made, and of course the reports that's made. But I think this one, the latest one we can see, just really fresh from the media today, all right, from Singapore's media. You have a forecast down. I think it's the first time in probably recent history or modern history where you have the Prime Minister of Singapore coming in very early, right, to say, to quote him, is incremental. Basically, we have to be aware of job losses as well as unemployment. Does that, and of course, today as well, Singapore has also downgraded, I think, this GDP forecast from a 1 to 3 now is to 0.2%. SME is more optimistic, saying that I think going to depression is not, but I think where PM and a lot of other trade so-called analysts have come in and a lot more realistic, if not pessimistic. Okay. So on the global basis, WTO itself has actually predicted that the global GDP, not just Singapore, could drop as much as 7%. Okay, if the US-China trade war persists. Okay, if this happens, the implications of it, we're going to see in just a few minutes. Okay. Of course, here today, we're going to think, if this is going to worsen further, what is the potential impact on the Singapore landed market? So do you remember from quarter 1 here? All right, this right now what's happening with unstable global economy. This is before the tariffs, by the way. Yet we have still a local growing economy, and I think the overall business health, I think, is still healthy. Rising population, income, etc. Right, these are some of the things that's happening now. So now, what is going to happen in the next 3, 6, 9 months, 3, 6, 9 years? Nobody really knows. Frankly, I think the most painful and most damaging outcome, all right, or of this tariff situation, that it is so unpredictable. It is so erratic to the extent that things or decisions can be changed as fast as 24 hours. So obviously, this has caused a lot of countries to lose confidence in the US in general. But the thing is, again, it's the impact of that, right? Because it's a very globally, as a well-knitted international trade situation, any decision made by them will cause a lot of ripples. So now let's try to understand and predict, all right, in a 3 case scenarios, from best case, neutral, and to worse. What do I mean by that? Okay. Best case scenario, which just now 70% of y'all say things are going to be less tariffs, and who knows, maybe he changes his mind and realize that China has the upper hand in terms of bargaining power, in terms of all the economic tools that they can use. Let's say, okay, the trade war subsides, because it reverts back to normal. We have US president saying everything's okay, etc., and things reverts back to normal. The trade war subsides and we regain a lot of multilateral exchanges, again, assuming, okay, all right, assuming. And then let's say all this remains status quo, because then we have this small jerk in the last 2 weeks, for example, maybe last for another 2 weeks or a month for stabilization, all right? And of course, this has already, by the way, in the last 2 weeks has caused a lot of turbulence really in the stock market. You will see Dow Jones, you see STR, everything dropping across the world, by the way, right? Double-digit growth within one day and up, creating, I think, unprecedented one-day rises and one-day losses. So this has created speculative. By the way, when we say speculative winners and losers, it affects probably the landed market more than any other segments, because from our clients, we do know quite a number of them are actually heavily invested, I think, the stocks market. So whether they make money or lose money from them will have a direct impact. Okay. Right. So impact on the landed property in Singapore, I think if this starts to subside, I think because of the strong fundamentals, price will continue to rise very gradually, not the pace that we see in the first 3 years after COVID, but 2 to 3%, like what we predicted. May, all right, may continue. But what if it's neutral? And notice we say neutral is not at the current state, is where basically, let me just shift this, all right, is where what we are seeing now, China, the rest of Asia, they emerge as neutral. This is a neutral, because now we can see very clearly that US is losing in terms of a lot of their negotiation. I think in terms of strategies, I think it's clearly not working. But what we do see is a lot of strong retaliation from China and the rest of Asia, right? Assuming the world is split up into two economic blocks, and loosely China and the rest of Asia, for example, if not, I dare not really put EU here, because that's not as clear yet. They emerge with net positive gains. Okay, I just put it simply, net positive gains. And Singapore benefits from, in terms of our trade reliance now, we are higher reliance on China, Asia as a trade facilitator, and retracts from I think a main collaboration on this side. Okay, so and more talents in terms of population, more talents will shift to Asia and Singapore. Already talks, if you have seen some of the social media, a lot of US citizens are trying to shift out of the country. For example, Singapore naturally will probably attract some of them, right? There's also will be sectorial shifts in employment, but still overall be negative net effect first, okay? Because like it or not, even with China and the rest winning, I think there's still a lot of negative effect in terms of the supply chain. There are a lot of businesses, whether you're doing import, export, whether you are involved in part of the supply chain movement, financial, etc. I think there'll be a lot of changes. These sectoral shifts, if you go and study it, really different people will be affected differently. But generally, I think the overall environment will be negative in terms of employment, all right? And with this, I think there definitely will be some fear, right, and uncertainty, and upgraders, land upgraders may delay plans to enter the landed market, especially the first timers upgrading into landed for the first time. You're pulling all your savings and resources into your one big purchase. It's likely for us to predict that a lot of these upgraders may delay their plans. We're not saying no, never, but they may just want to pause and monitor the situation first. Okay. Now, stock market, I think the trading activity will continue to heighten, because the priorities will shift between stocks and other financial. But this is a very complicated and more complex market, right? That may have some impact directly or indirectly on landed market. So we're not talking just about stocks. We're talking about now bonds market as well, which I think those who have read, you will see is actually what countries like China and Japan are using now as a weapon against US. If that happens, I think interest rate will be affected, etc., etc. Okay, so if that happens, I think there'll still be a lot of volatility. So when this happens in a very neutral scenario, we just say neutral because the damage has been done, I think price and volume will be stagnant in the short run, at least in the next 3 to 6 months. Okay, and if you understand anything about landed, whatever we see now usually takes effect 3 to 6 months later, because that's usually the average time that's taken to either buy or to sell a landed property. All right. So if this remains stagnant, I think for the rest of the year, we should not see any movement until 2026. Now, let's see what is the worst case scenario, which 30% of you believe. If the tariffs really, really worsen, if our PM is correct, if WTO is correct, or even goes into a worse prediction than them, right? And which I think at this point of time, all of us should be mentally, if not financially, prepared for. Okay, what will happen? Global recession, which will definitely result in a local recession. Okay, so rising population, you have more aging sellers because now we're still at the peak of the market. So some may want to sell their house. Okay, more sellers may want to sell their house. This will increase the supply of houses, which we are starting to see actually from last year onwards, right? Even now, there's a lot more houses entering the market every single week, and this may decrease or depress the price further. Okay, if it really hits employment, something that I think Singaporeans have generally enjoyed due to strong economy, if really widespread and industry-wide retrenchments really come in, I think this will really affect the market, okay, in terms of ability of buyers to enter the market, right? And then remembering the rechanneling of post-COVID profits, the profiters, I put them, right? They may stay put, even if you have made money from 3-4 years ago. Even if you have made money, you may want to put off your purchase first instead of channeling the money back, because it's always good to have cash on hand in terms when there is a crisis, right? Stock market, we have seen before, if one day it can drop by 10 to 12%, what if it drops further? You know, Tesla stocks has really dropped 40% from the peak from the start of the year. Okay, for people who believe that US stock market has been a bubble for many years, and would this be the time that actually we come back to reality? All right, if this happens, this will create unprecedented losses in investment wealth. You don't need to be Elon Musk to lose billions of dollars. Okay, and if all this happens, unfortunately, I don't think anyone, not just landed property market, I think the entire property market will be affected and price will start to decline from the current peak. The last peak we saw was what, 2013? We can see the entire market can slow down and sometimes slow down for years, right? For years, 3 to 4 years, if you still remember the charts from 2013. Okay. Is there any silver lining in all of this? Will Singapore government allow this to happen? And what can we basically within the segment and the market be optimistic to see? Okay. First one, let's see. If it's in a neutral to worst case, of course, best case scenario, I don't think there's government intervention or government intervention. I don't think it's needed. All right. Just let the price continue to rise. That's always been the government's role. Assuming it goes towards neutral to bad, if not worse, let's not forget we have more than what, 10 rounds, 13 rounds now, all right, of ABSD, TDSR regulations that the government has deployed very successfully or gradually over the last more than 10 years. In fact, it's been 12 years, right? Or no, sorry, 14 years since ABSD have been introduced. So all this from TDSR now at 55%, ABSD for foreigners or even for second property, I think these are very important and if not powerful, all right, levers to basically use to stabilize the property market. You can, once the government release some of them very strategically, it can actually retabulate basically the balance back to minimize any loss or if not, basically maintain it at a stagnant state. Okay. What happens even in the bad scenario is that a lot of cash rich investors. We have, of course, you see the stock market drop, you see people making money as well. A lot of them may start to think that maybe stocks is very risky, too risky. Maybe the bubble is real. Maybe what is there for the more reliable a form of investment is actually in real estate. And some of them may choose to redirect more funds back in real estate, whether it's commercial or in the more high-end ones like landed property. Okay. Let's also forget, with or without tariffs or global trade war, Singapore is facing an aging population. This is something that we see a lot more after COVID because it changes people's perspective. A lot of the aging population may choose to sell their landed properties, especially the larger ones, right? Houses value, and then probably at this time they want to right size, downsize, and this may stimulate the smaller houses demand. From buying big houses, you want to buy small houses, which I think a lot of the buyers and clients which we are serving now. Okay, let's not also forget things that's been reported before in terms of like your family offices and a lot of indicators of a long queue of naturalized, we call citizens to be. Okay, they are all queuing up with or without a trade war. These foreigners who are now either PRs or sitting in their family offices waiting to become citizens will not change their mind. It may even make Singapore a safer haven for them. So this queue of people are going to start to convert to Singapore citizens, and they will continue to buy their first landed property. So the effect of this will be interesting to see whether the silver linings are powerful enough, right, to basically neutralize, if not offset, the negative impact of the this global trade war. All right. What do you think at this point of time? Still positive? Still negative? I think my team and I, we will continue. We have never been staring at the news as much as we do, because usually landed market is very stable, right? You don't see a lot of sharp increases or drops. But I think with this global trade war, we're expecting to see a lot of turbulence in the weeks, months, if not weeks to come. Okay. So now let's come back again. Whichever point or whichever direction is going to go, I think it's good to have a better understanding of what's happened the last 3 months, because it sets the foundation, right? To us, it's like ground zero. Q1, 25 is like ground zero for basically the very uncertain future. Okay, so do you remember the 3.7 and minus 11%? Okay, just to summarize, if you remember this number properly. Now let's take a look at the various segments. Okay. Firstly, let's start to look at, I think, a very familiar one, easiest to understand, Terrace versus MBD and Detached. To this, maybe let's do our next poll to understand which house type are you actually thinking of buying or selling now. Let me launch this. Okay. Are you now thinking of buying a terrace, selling a semi-D, buying a detached? I know this question, you may have to click both. For some of you, you can choose one. I know some are upgrading from a semi-D to a detached, etc. Right? But maybe just put your first step first. If you need to sell first, you choose that house type as the first house type that will affect you. Okay. Let's take a few seconds. We have not done this poll for a while. In terms of house type, let's see whether this affects you. Okay, quite interesting. We all know that detached usually, or terrace usually make up the highest percentage, right? Now, today, interesting. Okay, I'm going to pause this. We have a good equal percentage. Oh no, just switched. Okay, terrace 36%, and we have 40% who are interested in. Can you see the results? 38, 38, and 23. Okay, 38, 38, 23. By the way, do you think you reflect the total landed so-called market in terms of proportion? We'll see in a while, right? 33, so they're actually more detached or semi than I expected. Okay, let's see what I meant by that. Okay, so to first understand the market, okay, this is the mix now, and there'll be a few of these slides later, but I think this is the slide that shows the difference in the change. Okay, you see a very big change for Terrace from 61 to 53%. I think Terrace have always been hovering near to 60, high 50, for example, but for the first time, you see actually Terraces dropping in terms of percentage, right? Whereas actually semi-Ds have crept up, and of course detached has crept up as well, 12%, but majority of the share went to semi-D. So we are seeing a very, very large proportion of semi-Ds being transacted in this quarter. Okay, so these are the prices. I won't go to the details. Okay, you can see semi-D going very strong. Usually you high, the semi-D volume increased by 9%. Detached is quite flat, and Terrace actually dropped by 22%. Now, one reason for this is that was like the last 6 months, we see a very, very strong volume in terms of new property launches. Okay, new property launches that has had prices for 3-4 bidders and high 2 million, some are even 4.5 million. So that has naturally taken attention a lot, all right? Created a bit of a cannibalization to the terrace markets, because a lot of them, they may be with the same amount, they may be looking at this property type as well. But of course, especially for OCR, RCR, I won't go to the details. The bulk of all this, if not all of these launches have actually ended. So rest of the year will be mainly more on CCR. So will this therefore push the terrace buyers back into the market again? All right, based on observation, you want to ask, you can check with any of our HLD consultant to see. All right, of course, some of you are also looking at terraces as well. Now, let's take a look at value. So we have now Terrace, despite dropping in volume, it has crossed a new high. In fact, all these three house types have crossed a new high of almost 1950, almost 1009, and crossed 2001 respectively. Okay, for the three types. Okay. Next, Is looking at freehold versus 99. I don't know how many of you are 99-year property owners, buyers, or sellers. Our team just sold one at the beginning of this month, and I can tell you the market is still strong. Okay. In fact, you see no change in the proportion between freehold and 99. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the basically triple nine first. They make up, of course, the about 85%. Cross 2,300 plus, nothing to basically be alarmed, except that the volume has, volume has dropped also in tandem with that. Let's take a look at 99. For, I think, many quarters, 99 year, this segment actually has seen a drop in terms of, I think, the value. This time round, it has actually dropped in a relative drop compared to other house types. But this time round, you see a 99-year crossing $1,600 for the first time and growing above the average, right? It grew by 6.1%. Could be an affordability issue. It could be basically, I think generally there's a lot of terrace. Later, the district ICs will share with you. A lot of the terraces that were on they're on sale. They are actually not as affordable as what a lot of people are looking for. So the prices, some of them turn to 99 years. Okay. All right. Next will be new versus resale. This one you see a more distinct because only 5% are compared to, let's say, condos, for example, where new ones account for a bigger percentage. New landed segments is only about 5% and it's remain unchanged. Okay. So for resale houses, which make up the bulk, no surprise, you see 3.2 and 11%, which is in tandem with the national average. And then new houses, okay, like 99-year houses have also increased. Now, this is interesting because for many months, we've been wondering why the price are below 2005, when every time you see the houses being transacted, a lot are closer to 3,000, and in the more popular districts, they are actually cross 3,005 or even 4,000. So finally, with a more balance in terms of the split of spread of the new houses, now we have finally crossed 2006, and we believe this price will continue to go up because the upcoming new launches actively marketed now are really, really all above $3,000. Okay. Volume, I'm not too concerned, 25 to 20, okay, because of the mix that's available. Now, Strata is another area. So Strata is also like 99, have increased the percentage from 9% to now 12%. Again, reflects probably a shift again into affordability. And again, a new record is set for the first time. Strata landed has crossed $1,000 per square feet. And this is, by the way, not based on land, but based on built up area. Okay, so very strong growth in terms of price as well as volume. All right. Now, this is a good summary here. You can screenshot. You can see many numbers here, but it's a very good bird's eye view on what's happening in the market. One point to take note is basically the good performance. Like, for example, semi-D, you see volume increasing, as we mentioned earlier. You see value by Detached. It's really the month of the quarter for Detached. Okay, we have never seen Detached, by the way, crossing, or it has happened some months, but this is a very large increase. Actually, Detached price transacted higher than semi-D as well. Okay, and then with Strata landed increasing in volume very strongly for the first time in some quarters. Okay, so most sub-segments volume has declined except for semi-D and Strata landed. Okay, the rest have declined because remember it's a minus 11%. Value, most have increased except, but with Detached and new houses performing the best. Okay, all right. And then next will be a very interesting, again, you are not going to see this anywhere else because it involves a lot more interesting segmentation, right? In condos, you have your CCR, RCR, etc. I think HLD, we group them into core and non-core districts. Okay, so we have the core districts here, 11 districts that makes up more than almost 85% of all the transactions, whereas the non-core are in about 15%. So these core districts, I think most of you are familiar with, from 10 all the way to 28, for example. So most of you, these are the most popular ones in terms of transaction volume. All right. Again, a big table here. So from the left, you can see the various regions, districts, and of course the period. Many numbers here. Let me just draw your attention to basically the bottom first. Okay, I will let the district ICs explain to you what causes the various increment and of course the drop, although overall is a drop as you've seen, except for you can see here district 10 and 11. Later we'll explain later, right? But you can see here core districts, remember the 85%, actually we have dropped by 12%, stronger than the non-core districts, which means that we see more people now moving into the more outskirts area that are not as centralized or as popular. Okay, So one reason will be really because I think pricing, because some of the non-core districts, the prices are generally lower, more affordable, and we see more choices there as well, right? Compared to relative to I think the previous quarter. Okay, right. So I mentioned earlier, 10, 11, I think District 16 is holding well in terms of volume, 28 as well. Now let's take a look at value. Okay, with that movement in the volume, what does it translate to? Pardon me, sorry. You can see here the total Singapore is about 3.7. Core districts actually didn't rise as much. It's only at 3%. Okay, at 3%. Among the many districts here, again, DICs will share them later. You can see three districts that are stood out. One is the best performer is District 28. Right, it has crossed, it has come back to the $2,000 per square feet again. And this time around is because of a higher proportion of inter-terrace that are in much renovated condition, right? I'll let Sean explain later. It's a very fragmented market, but yet there is an observation that a lot of the renovated ones have managed to pull a very high PSF, right? And hence being the top performer here. On the other hand, we have District 21 and District 16, all right, dropping. District 16 is reverse. Okay, you actually see less. Oh, sorry, you see more inter-terrace being sold. Therefore, sorry, less inter-terrace being sold. Inter-terrace, which carries a higher PSF. This quarter, less of the District 16 terraces was sold. So there were more semi-detached and detached, therefore bring down the average PSF. And District 21, Cedric later will also explain to you as well. Okay. All right, then this is for the non-core. So we have here minus 3% for core districts. The non-core has actually done very, very well. This is one of the highest performers we've seen, right? Increased by 11%, almost I have crossed 1,008. Of course, it's a mixed match of different districts. You can see from basically 1,002 to 4,000 per square feet. We won't go too much into the details. Of course, there's a lot of fluctuation. All right, but you see districts like District 2 championing the more than 4,000 square feet. This is a newer house. And then you also have the 3,000 plus square feet as well. District 99, by the way, is actually nearer to town or Orchard Road than, let's say, the rest of Bukit Timah. And now there's a lot of activities, people looking at basically the District 9 area and this Jalan Jintan area, Mount Elizabeth, Emerald Hill, as well as One Tree Hill area. Okay. Okay, I'll leave numbers here for you to analyze. By and large, don't have to worry too much because of the smaller numbers, so the fluctuations can be higher. But generally, we cannot deny, I think, the pool of the non-core districts. Okay. Now let's dive a bit deeper into average price. Again, there are many, many numbers here. What is interesting for you? Let's take a look at the black ones first. Okay. Now, total Singapore just now, I've reflected a bit. Average price was 5.75. Now it's 6.1. Right? So the next one is basically on a non-core that has grown a lot, 11 point something. It was actually for 4.2. So generally the price is lower, right? Versus the core districts, which is almost 6 million. Okay, so the more affordable non-core districts have increased to 4.7, and then we have the core districts at 6.4. Soon I think we will cross 6.5%. Okay, this is a very strong growth of 6.6%. I won't go to individual details. You can see some interesting movements. Of course, you can see now the big brothers of the districts 10 and 11 have all crossed above $10 million per average. All right, whereas the rest of the districts, even like District 15, the average price is $8 million, right? $8 million on average. This is again a new high. Okay, I'll let again the district IC share later on why this is happening. Okay. So non-core districts have outperformed the core districts, right? Rare in terms of average PSF, in terms of average price as well. Okay, reflecting that buyers changing appetite towards decentralization. Maybe the pool of the decentralized so-called cities or the business centers have actually attracted them there. All right. Now with this, we will now go to the various districts, okay, the districts and the regions. So the regions are all split into East, Northeast, and Central. So I have again to introduce my district ICs here. Starting Northeast region for 19, 20, 28 is Sean. Okay, so Sean, please take over.
Right, thank you, Willie. Right, again, quarter one, but this time I guess some may say it's the calm before the storm, or maybe the worst is over. Let's see. But bear in mind that a lot of this transactional data despite being in quarter one, could have actually occurred sometime in quarter four. So usually for all these results, take it with a pinch of salt, but it gives you a glimpse as to, what has actually been happening in the last few quarters. All right. So I'll be covering 19, 20, and 28, starting with District 19. So 19 is always going to be very interesting in the sense that we have the largest number of landed dwelling houses, as well as, in terms of relative transactions. It gives you a more insightful kind of glimpse into the entire market relatively, yes. So again, based on a glance, these are figures that would, make sense to you on surface, but definitely by going deeper into it, then can a lot of these values make more sense, all right? So again, for the various segments, for terraces, semi and detached, all this again is based on an average value. We don't take the median for obvious reasons, okay? So again, these are some of the so-called the price markers. So we start off with the lowest ones. Some of these houses, again, you have varying conditions, and I think you can see for a lot of this, especially the lower PSFs, right? Usually will occur a lot in those with the higher, larger land sizes. This is what we call like the quantum, price quantum mechanics at play. Not every PSF is the same. Otherwise, terraces and those very big detached will be priced, homogeneously. Likewise, for the highest PSFs. So increasingly, you notice for a lot of District 19 houses, especially for the brand new ones, still draw in a huge demand in the sense that I think one of the most common feedbacks that buyers, why they go for brand new, is partially because you can take the loan on the entire value rather than, example, buying a house, just a land, and then investing additional sums. Nowadays, it's like $400 to $500 per square foot of built up to rebuild, not to mention the time, interest, and the headaches. So all these actually are not part of your mortgage loan. So a lot of people prefer to skip the hassle and go for something that is already done up, preferably by a reputable developer. Right? Again, for 99, this is not as many, but usually, when you have cases like this is going to be something that is very unique. I don't know, if I were the buyer, 1.5 million, this is our house, I think I may consider tear down and rebuild because this one I think cannot really stay inside. All right. So for the highest, again, these are some of the common areas. Chuan area is one very, very popular one. Location is still very important. And increasingly, we see a number of not only for investment, but more so for own stay, all right? Because the preservation of value in Serangoon Gardens, I think we covered this in the last quarter. How can a 99 in Serangoon Gardens be so much different compared to the 999, the rest of the estate? There has to be some pooling factors to write on the overall market. And this will be the interesting portion. Try to keep it shorter this round because we still have a lot of ground to cover. So interestingly, for the first time, we noticed a very stark shift. What's really interesting is majority of the transactions based on last quarter seems to be kind of bracketing the 4 to 6 million mark. And you will be harder and harder to see any transactions that is below 4 million. I think also what is unique for this round, this quarter, fewer and fewer land only are being sold. So usually we have 3 types of houses here. Those are single story, unless you really dig into the single story charm. Otherwise, most of these houses will be slated to be bought for rebuilt. Okay. And most of this, you can notice, is within the 6 million mark, accounts already more than half of the transactions. 19, in a sense, is more budget friendly relative to some of the more exclusive estates. Central is one, East Side as well. Now moving on to the PSF as well. So interestingly, I think this is something that most buyers and sellers seem to be very detached from, because this data, I think when you get it from public sources or even from your mailers, I think those of you are thinking of selling, it's always going to be a step in the dark. So what is my house really worth? What kind of PSF can I sell? Sometimes, your terraces, of course, the relative PSF will be higher. Sometimes you're detached, you want to price yourself as a terrace. So there's a mismatch of, prices, especially on a PSF standpoint. But what really goes into the PSF, because we calculate it based on land size, oftentimes a lot of considerations for the multiple factors are not put inside. Example, the GFA of the house, the construct, when was it built? Is it fully maximized? So just to give you some perspective, lately we just transacted a land. It's about 4,000 plus square feet in Serangoon Gardens. Out of the 20 buyers that came, I think more than half were puzzled. How come this land is so expensive? How come it's this type of price? So you can notice, if you're not in sync with the market, oftentimes you'll be taken by surprise. So those buyers who are sitting on the fence or who have been sitting on the fence, don't be surprised that something that is in Serangoon Gardens, 4,000 square feet, single story, can fetch as high or even higher than 1,005 PSF. So this is in relation to all the smaller units, smaller plots. Definitely you'll be looking upwards of what, 1,008 or even 2,000 plus PSF. Okay, to know more information, I think we do this for all districts on a quarterly basis, down to the estates. You can filter up to conditions, even the facing for some. So this will give you a very important snapshot, especially you're thinking of buying or selling. So do reach out to your consultants. And these are some of the more popular listings that our team is marketing. Simon Road is something that is very, very, very interesting. I think proximity is one thing. So a lot of the first-time landed buyers, it's very cute that you all prefer to have the convenience, the absolute convenience. Anything less than 200 meters walking distance to MRT, it's far. So Simon Road is very well strategically placed, positioned just within minutes walk to MRT and all the amenities, right? Of course, with a smaller land size comes a much higher PSF, and based on the absolute affordability, based on the quantum of just above 5 million. The more interesting proposal one will be the corner terrace. This is towards Bartley side. So these houses present more value relative to, let's say, something that is fully maximized like Simon Road. So those who have more experience or looking to upgrade to something that is larger, all right, oftentimes might be more creative in a sense, you can see the perceived value of the existing structure rather than to tear down to rebuild. So you can explore just extensive renovations or also for A&A or recon. Right, so Thrift Drive is one very interesting proposition in terms of the affordability, just at the asking price of 5. Other larger plots, this will be something. One thing about developer units, I think nowadays, majority of those TOP units have already been sold, all right? And bear in mind that these have been in the market for some time. So up to the point of TOP, in fact, a lot of these houses, actually, their absolute cost is actually a past cost. But definitely for developers, they'll be looking to match based on what the market is asking. So this unit at Bloxhome, a very, very nicely done up unit. I think this is something that will appeal to a lot of landed upgraders, right? Given that the land size by any measure is not smaller than the typical kind of semi-Ds. In fact, even for Serangoon Gardens, close to 2008. Yep. And lastly, this detached. Again, this is something that with a much larger land size, though this one has a bit of a long driveway, yeah. But the PSF value is something those who are looking to upgrade or already are staying in landed, usually you're more PSF sensitive. So you want to know more details of these houses, do reach out to your consultants that invited you tonight. Okay, and then just a glimpse, these are the number of known units, that is currently on the market. If you're interested to filter, do reach out. Right, so District 20. So this is something, again, this quite fragmented. I always mention every quarter. Again, the closer you are to the popular schools, so there are 3 main ones. One would be CHIJ St. Nicholas Girls' School, the other one Catholic High and Aitong. So this round, a sea of red, yeah? But don't be shocked. Oh, you're staying there. Oh my gosh, some of my house, now everything is dropped, It's not entirely true. So again, on surface, it looks like this, right? Based on the segments, the terrace, semi-D, and detached as well. But once we go deeper, all right, so these are some of the examples. So can you still get something that's below 3 million? Yes. Can you ask a lot? No. Okay, this is only less than 900 square feet land. But this is based again on absolute affordability. You want something that is landed still. This is within 1 km to 2 schools. So this Thompson Garden area has always been a very popular choice for a lot of condo alternatives home seekers, right? Jalan Tambir, this is very interesting in the sense that there's many houses currently on sale along Jalan Tambir. Most of them are semi-Ds regardless. But again, it's the absolute affordability based on the PSF. So even given something like this, that is only 1,004 plus, although it's already a 2-story, it gives you the option and flexibility to consider even to rebuild, right? So the absolute exit in the future is still something still palatable. And on the other spectrum, we have 2 brand new. Westlake, this would be something that is not so frequent, transactions over there, but people are still looking at value, right? People who come to District 20 increasingly are people who are coming from Bukit Timah in terms of to unlock the same value, but you got the much bigger land size. On the other spectrum, this will be a terrace at Sampang Hills. This is a bit lower than expected in the sense that Again, for every house, there are unique selling points. There are also certain things that actually are pitfalls. So example, for this Telang, the rear is actually going to be the main road. But despite that, it comes with 3.5 story with basement. So this is something that, again, it's a give and take. It's rare, very rare to have something that is 100% beautiful house. Everything is positive. Okay. 99, only one. Let's not touch on this. There's very few 99 in District 20 regardless. What's more interesting is the deeper dive. So for terraces, in fact, we see a drop, no doubt. But then again, the question that we get asked a lot, how come the PSF varies so much? All right. So to bear in mind, again, earlier I mentioned about the proximity to schools. So in each of these landed estates, the price does differ in terms of the PSF. But overall, let's take a deeper look. Give me a second. Something is loading. Okay, so it's at this point we want to say we're experiencing some technical difficulties. Please be patient. It's still, yeah. Oh, there you go. Still loading, but never mind. Okay, so it skipped a slide. So main thing is while waiting for it to load, one way to really dissect the data and to have an absolute kind of glance at the market is to really to dissect houses by categories. All right. So generally we split them into three categories: A, B, and C. Category C's are usually the single story houses. All right. So it's most of the time it's meant for rebuild. All right. On the other spectrum, category A, these are fully maximized houses. But again, in different areas, it will be kind of, oops. Okay, it's back. And it's not. Okay, never mind. So back to category B, these are houses. We'll give you a few photos to give you a scope of what we are talking about, all right? So these are mostly two-story houses, original. Some of them have been renovated over the years, but regardless, these are not fully maximized. So why these houses are interesting in essence is that there's always a possibility you buy something like this, you can look to actually kind of redevelop by a full rebuild, or you can simply just renovate, or you can look towards a recon to really maximize the house. So let me take you back one slide. These are the houses that have been transacted in Q1. Again, within the category B houses, there's a variation of conditions. So it also corresponds to the eventual closing prices. Okay. But before that, to really understand what is the true value of, a lot of these houses, especially terraces, we need to look at land. Okay. So for this quarter, interestingly, we have two terraces, almost about the same size, 2,000 square feet, but at varying PSFs. This is really due to the macro environment. One is at Sembawang Hills, Jalan Gelenggang. This will be at the other spectrum of District 20, whereas Gardenia, this is where Thomson Plaza area is. So given all things apple to apple, in a sense, there's a difference in terms of the absolute price. So in this case, it's about 400,000 difference just within the district itself. So it doesn't mean that, example, you are in Clover, your price is going to be the same as somewhere in, let's say, Casuarina area. It's not the case actually. All right, so category C houses, usually they are single story. Okay, it's taking a bit longer to load. I think too much visuals for you all today. Okay, skipping to category A and just recollecting from the slides that we created. Category A, there will be, again, mostly fully maximized houses. This will again be based on the various conditions of the house itself. So the PSF is usually kind of dependent also on the condition of the house and the layout of the houses, whether some comes with the lift or not. Just give me a second for this to load. While waiting, I think somebody has a question. How come terraces? What's the average size for terraces? That's not referring to District 19. I would say it actually depends. Okay, so for areas like example Kovan, whereby it's actually a white site, the prices there seem to actually fluctuate quite a bit, and always in comparison to, let's say, areas like Serangoon Gardens. Because one area in Kovan you can actually build up to 3.5 stories, whereas Serangoon Gardens is always going to be a 2.5 stories. Then the other thing is also some are quite picky when it comes to the tenure. Some they prefer something that is in perpetuity, those freehold types. Okay, finally we are back to Cat A. While some, they are okay with 999. Okay, back to Category A houses. These are usually fully maximized. So some of the visuals here. So you can't do much more to these houses. It's already fully built up per se, right? Anything short of renovations, interior reconfigurations. So usually this will fetch the highest PSF. And for this quarter for District 20, there's only 3. So again, we can see majority of the transactions happen in the category B for terraces in District 20. That's why it's naturally that the average prices, average PSF seems to be lower. Of course, when there's higher transactions in category A, it might bump up the overall average PSF for that quarter. And one interesting aspect for District 20 is then again, why did the terrace volume drop? Again, you buy a category B house, you need to invest a lot of time, money, renovation, A&A, or even recon. And for the 3 main schools, we are able to filter based on the proximity. These are all within 1 kilometer, the houses that have been transacted. So it's again more subjective because it's very reliant on the current market supply. To know more, do reach out to any of the consultants for this also. Okay, and these are some interesting ones. I think we'll skip past this. We took a bit of time for the technical difficulties. So these are the 4 types of houses that are more popular. I think every weekend we are having a full house for all these houses to cater to most of our buyers' profiles, right? So the terraces, corner terrace, semi-D and detached. Again, every house is unique and different. So to take reference, the one on the left, this comes with a basement. That's why the built up or what is actually referring to the GFA is much larger comparative to most of the houses in the market. So bear in mind, PSF again is subjective. Okay, and lastly, the District 28. Right, so District 28, every quarter, we have to be take it with a pinch of salt because a lot of data is being skewed by pollen collection. So this data that you're seeing here, these are stripped of the pollen collection transactions. So this is one of the districts that did very, very well, more than 24%, yes? And based on that, also even the terraces semi-D, they're doing very well. But what's unusual is there has been no detached transactions for the last 6 months. All right. So those of you who are in the market still selling your detached, fret not. No one else has won the race yet. Okay. And the chart toppers, again, this will be something that is not surprising as well. District 28 is always going to be the more relatively affordable districts for various reasons. This quarter, it really stood out. Okay. So in terms of the highest quantum and PSF, these are usually fully maximized houses. Yes. And for the 99, there's only 2, actually 3, 2 terraces and 1 semi-D. These are all in NIM collection. All right, we'll skip this. More interestingly is this, the deeper dive. Okay, again, category C, let's look at terraces. 0, absolutely 0. Nobody is interested to buy a piece of land to rebuild in the last quarter. All right, so because of this, a lot of the PSF value for District 28 actually skewed towards a much higher value per se. Yep. Category B houses, total of 9 transactions. Some of the data, we have the full data, some we are still in the midst of checking it out. But what we can see for this quarter is majority of the transactions are actually houses that are renovated. Okay, and they are more affordable. Look at the eventual closing price. If it's a bit too small, all of them, highest is only 4.3 million. Everything is 4.08 or even below 4 million mark. All right. By the way, these are not the houses on sale on the left. These are our collection, our repertoire of all our houses that have marketed and sold, and some on the market. Okay, category A, there are more and more houses like this in District 28. Many would be in the Luxus Hills area. But what is unique in this case is that all these are actually more or less already fully maximized. Luxus Hills area is always taking the cake. Definitely the PSF, some of them is up to 2007. Yeah. Semi-D, this is worth mentioning. So we see a reversal. There's actually more transactions in the semi-D segment. And just to give you a snapshot in lieu of the time, yeah. Again, nobody wants to buy land, right? Everything this quarter is about category B and category A, all right? Part of it, majority will be the fully maximized ones. And what really skewed the data for this quarter is that 2 brand new, this is at Gerald Mudlingston, and 2 units at Luxus Hills. So again, see, all these things, if you really want to really understand, we have all the data, we have all the market trends, and we can even tailor them to your needs, be it buying or selling. So do reach out to your consultants if you have any queries, just to know and have a feel, wouldn't you? Yep. Okay, with that, I'll hand over to, not yet, some of the interesting listings, all right? So this is a quick glance. in the terrace, corner terrace. These are some of the more popular ones. Land size is one. Usually people prefer in District 28 something that is larger, even for the terraces. Corner terraces, you don't mind something in Luxus Hill because it's lived, really moving condition, right? North-south facing to add. Semi-D, this is a beautiful house, all right, that our team is currently marketing. And the Detached, this is something interesting. Those of you in the market that want value, all right, this house has a fantastic GFA. Comes with an absolutely gorgeous basement. I think you can park like 8 cars, right? So something like this, you can't get anything like this in, let's say, even in Bukit Timah, not at this price. Okay, so District 28, something to look out for. All right, with that, I'm going to pass over to Jason, cover District 13.
Hi, good evening. This is Jason here. Yeah, okay, I'll cover District 13 and 14. So, okay. This is the overall transaction for District 13. We're seeing a drop mainly for the detached and as well as some smaller terrace, which is less than 1,000 square feet. As for the price drop, mainly the last quarter mainly come from this transacted price at 12 to 15 million. As for this quarter, none of them actually hit more than 9 million. That's why we see a huge drop on the average price. Okay, this is some of the so-called overall value. Chart toppers, we are seeing actually the lowest quantum and lowest PSF. You can see once again, in fact, almost every quarter we are seeing the lowest quantum is on this McPherson Garden Estate. Mainly they are actually below 1,000 square feet, as you can see over here. They are actually very original condition. Most of them they were actually built for buy, and then some they just do some either rebuild or do a A&A. On the other side, the lowest PSF, yeah, this is actually at this what you call summer view. What you can see, actually, the land, if you realize the land size is quite big, but one of the reasons for the PSF drop is that there's no frontage at all. So the parking will be actually on the side on the second floor. On the highest quantum for this year, for this quarter, what we are seeing, the highest quantum is always the Braddell Heights side. This is actually original condition. The land size is 6,000. So yes, it's actually sold at 9.1 compared to the highest PSF, same thing. This is at McPherson Garden. So it's either they are actually very low price or very high PSF because of the land size and when they actually sold at a higher price. Hold on a minute, I think the file is loading. Still loading. Okay, we go into a deeper dive. Oh, it's loading. Sorry for that. I think probably the file is too big, so it takes some time for the file to download. Okay, here it goes. Hold on a minute. This is one. Hold on a minute. The file still not loading yet. Hold on a minute. Okay, for deeper dive, actually we can see, in fact, for D13, for the last few quarters from 2024, Q2 all the way, we are seeing a rise in the volume transacted since even until Q4. But Q1, there's a such so-called sharp drop. The percentage dropped almost 26%, mainly contributed from Detached. It's a sharp drop as well as a Terrace. And this Terrace actually mainly are those smaller Terrace drop. So as you can see over here, we are seeing the Brother Height, actually mainly the main drop actually come from Brother Heights, especially the Detached. In contrast, on the side on the price of I mean in terms of volume, the volume drop, but in the contrast, there's a slight increase. There's some increase in the price for Terrace, generally from 3.65 to 4 million, where most of the transacted value is actually for Terrace above 4 million. So one of the phenomenon that we are seeing, the lower, smaller Terrace, lower lower value, like 3 million, below 3 million is actually gone. So we are seeing only one, and generally the rest will be in the range of between 3 to 5 million. It almost contributes 77%. For more details, actually you can consult our HLD consultant for more details. This is some of the hot listings for Inter Terrace. This is at Lychee Avenue. It's very original, but good value. As you can see, it's 1,007. So probably people actually can buy it actually for rebuild. Good size. For this Jalan Mawar, this is a semi-D. I would say just some renovation, and actually you can move in without much E&E. Most of the bedrooms are actually en suite. This is another semi-D that we are seeing for, this is at Worcester Road. So we have a little bit of a small basement over here. So where you can park probably 2 cars and probably some major renovation, because this is quite original. And lastly is a Detached. This one can easily subdivide into 2 semi-Ds. I think the file is running. In fact, the next slide where I'm actually showing you is actually some of those other listings where actually you can contact our HLD for more information. Yeah. Next, I'll cover D14. Still loading. Yeah. Okay. For D14, basically for D14, I'll cover more on the D14 side. D14, a quick glance, actually not much changes for D14. Okay, while waiting for the slides, actually D14, not much changes in terms of volume as well as price. So moving on to next slide, actually coming out. So what are the changes for this D14? One of the major changes that we are seeing actually for D14 are the prices up for semi-D. What are the reasons for this major increase in price and PSF? Mainly for this one is because the more bigger semi-Ds are closing, and some are actually brand new. That's why actually the price surged a lot as compared to the previous quarter. For the chart toppers, again, the lowest quantum and lowest PSF we are seeing on this Lorong Kembangan. You can see this is 2,000 and it's all quite original condition. So that's why there's such a, I mean, the price was low. On the other side, we actually have a bigger land size. But why the PSF was so low is actually because this is next to the mosque. So I think one of the reasons, anything that next to this, what they call worship or whatever thing, so it will actually bring down the PSF or bring down the price. Next, this is highest quantum that we are seeing. This is Jalan Awan. It's actually almost TOP, just TOP about 3 years. And the owner actually buy and then after they rebuild, stay for 3 years and they sell and fetch quite a good price. On the other side, for highest PSF, you can see this is a shop houses. The land size is 1,004, but it's fetching quite a very high price. So as such, the PSF is actually quite high. Going to deeper dive, actually what you can see on the other side for D14, in fact, the volume for the last few quarters have been quite stable. Even for the pricings, they are actually all in the range of 3.6 to 4.6 million, ranging the so-called in terms of size is in the range of 1,008 to 2,002. So it's kind of a sign of market stability and price well maintained. What you can see over here is actually the price for 3.6, as I mentioned just now, 3 to 5 million. In fact, most of the transacted price we are seeing in the range of 3.4.6, 3 to 4.6, make up of almost 66%. Generally, the price are almost above 2,000 PSF. So this is some of the examples that I'm showing you, all above 2,000 PSF. As you can see, some of the land size are even smaller or above 1,005 or less than 2,000. So more details over here, you can approach our HLD consultant who invited you. Yeah. Okay. Next, yeah, I think because it's still running the file. Yeah. Yeah. Stop share. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, hold on a minute. Share again. Yeah, D14. Okay. Yeah. Use that one.
Thank you, Jason. Hi, good evening. I'm Justin. I'll be walking you through 2025 Q1 numbers for a Hello, good evening. Hi, thank you, Jason. I'll be walking you through the numbers for District 15 for 2025 Q1. And at a glance, this quarter, the numbers are all going different directions. So taking a pinch of salt, I'm going to show you more why the numbers are going in different directions. Despite that the whole volume dropped in 29%, but because of the PSF, it decreases only marginal about 3%. Overall, because of the detached houses with more value that was transacted, that's why hence the prices are going up. So these slides will give you a lot more insight about the District 15 transaction in Q1. So I would like to draw your attention to Detached, the transaction value. It has gone up by value has dropped by 7%, but despite of that, the PSF has increased by 27%, 20.7%. If I were to really regularize or normalize the whole PSF to take away the brand new detached houses that was transacted, it was increased by about 12%. I'm going to show you later which are the houses that was sold that hit the record price. So for this, the lower quantum was actually this street, this 55 Daphne Street was actually sold at about 3.1%, 3.1 million, which is only about 1,008 PSF. This is actually not really a corner terrace, was actually an end terrace. And the next one is looking at is actually 29 Siglap Gardens. The PSF only at 1,447. So this, in terms of location, I think this is really good because it's very near to the amenities. The only thing is that because the back is actually facing the F&B, so likelihood because of that, due to that, the PSF was a bit lower in 1,447. A lot of you who are like actively looking for houses in District 15, you will notice that looking for anything that's called terraces or even corner terraces, easily you can hit at least 2,000 per PSF. So this is something that's a bit outlier. So 1,447 is really a good price. So in terms of the quantum, that this is actually the 5 million place at Katong is really a big land piece. It's about 10,000. But of course, if you look at the landed zoning, you can even build probably a mini boutique apartment or something like that. For 128 Branson Road, this is the one that actually has achieved a very record PSF for a brand new detached in a Katong site. It translated at 3,502 per PSF. This is actually where it increases the whole pull up. I mean, in terms of the value, it pump up all the average value. If you dive deeper, if you look at the whole District 15, this quarter, despite a 29% drop in terms of volume, but detached houses has increased. Yeah, so because there are still demand, a very consistent, I would say a consistent demand for detached land in District 15, especially in Katong side. So for even not even for even for a brand new one. So, but I think Branson one was sold faster than some of the brand new, like I mean, I'm sure for those who are looking for brand new detached in 15, you'll notice that some houses are still being still in the market. But brand new Branson, this one will be so. I think the reason also because it has a very good basements car park, which you can all are sheltered. So when you park your cars, you can easily park 4-5 cars under shelter. So hence this one actually can sold faster compared to some of the brand new landed detached in Katong area. So in terms of the average PSF, you can see here it's actually 2,299 now. Okay, to actually dive a little bit deeper, I actually dissect the whole prices for detached in Katong, these 4 zones that we actually analyzes. So you can see for Katong especially is already clocked 2,515 PSF. Values remains at 17 million. The next indicator I'm going to show you is actually, people ask, is the price in District 15 softening or or they are still skyrocketing? But actually, if you look at the indicator, right, 80% of all the transactions are above 1,007 PSF. But regardless, what I'm seeing now, or we are experiencing now for the first quarter, we're seeing more and more transacted prices are actually much lower than asking. It could be probably 10 million plus minus this versus probably a 5% down from the asking. So we do see some prices are softening, or I would say stabilizing or more realistic, asking more realistic prices now. Okay. Now we have more analysis that you can reach out to the any agents that invited you tonight. And for hot listing, okay, we are seeing more and more people or upgraders looking for anything less than 4 million. If you follow us for the past few quarters webinar, you will notice that I've been saying that if you want to find any terraces in D15 for 4 million, it's very, very tough. Now, actually, we are seeing more transactions this quarter because there are a lot more houses actually Opera Estate that are selling, at Opera Estate. They're going below 4 million. So this one at Opera Estate below 4 million, something that we can consider. And the one at the corner terrace, I brought this up tonight because the PSF is only less than 2,000. And the fact that I think when I put this up, the seller has already reduced the asking as well. So I've reduced to 4.6 million now. So I think it's even more attractive now. Of course, this house is original. You have to do NA. For a brand new semi-D, I actually showcase this brand new semi-D tonight because of the PSF. Okay, also because of the quantum, 8.3 million to buy a brand new semi-D in District 15 is getting very rare. This land size is 3,000 and it's very good frontage with a lift and 5+1 bedrooms. You can reach out to us if you want to see this house. It's ready to view. And the next, I'm going to show you this is the detached at this C-Club area. This is on the hillside, very, very nicely renovated and in a very good condition. And it's got a basement and a 2.5 level up. So it has a very nice unblocked view. So reach out to us if you want to view this house. It has got a build of 8,006, very good size in terms of detached. Okay. Now, these are the glimpse of the number of houses that are actually in the market now. Okay, that's all for me for District 15. I'm going to hand over to Michael.
down, right? Wait. Left. Forward. Yeah. Thank you, Justin. Good evening. I'm Michael. I will cover District 16. As you can see from the map, we have got 5 areas down here. Based on the Q1 transaction, a total of 37. The highest transaction actually take place at the Guangzhou Harvey area. 12 transactions accounting for 32%. The next highest is actually 10 transactions at Q Drive, Jalan Limau. And the third highest is 8 transactions at Senate Aki High, with the balance between the other 2 sectors. Performance Q1, you can see down here, there's actually quite stable, different of only 1. And the number of transactions based on that, lesser terrace house was transacted. In terms of average prices, the benchmark now is below the 5 mil. And average PSF from a high of last quarter, 17 is supposed to be 1705 PSF. It dropped to 1542. By house type transaction, you can see down here, for terrace house, it is now below the 4 mil. And semi-D is below the 5 mil. Detached house, as you can see, dropped even further by 20% to 7.19 mil, right? 7.19 mil. There's an increase of PSF by 21% attributed to the land plot for detached house being smaller. That accounts for a higher PSF. Record transaction, lowest quantum here is 3.4 for this house, and it is at 41 Sunbird. The lowest PSF is on the right, 854 PSF for this Lucky Height unit. The land size is actually quite big, 4,003. That accounts for a low PSF. On the higher end, the highest quantum transacted is the 10 million house, which is a detached with a massive land area about 8,000. And in terms of PSF, highest PSF is this terrace at 33 Jalan Kati. It is due to the small land size of 1614 that account for a higher PSF. For 99-year lease, the lowest quantum is 2.45 as compared to the earlier 3.4 for a freehold. So there's a difference of about 1 mil. PSF-wise is slightly higher also, 913 PSF versus the 859 PSF for the freehold. At the higher end, the transaction is 3.88 for this house at 1 Tanah Merah Kecil. And on the right, the highest PSF is 1665. Deeper down, you can see this. I highlighted earlier about the detached house. Q5, or rather Q1 in 2025, there were 5 transactions compared to the whole of 2024, only 6 transactions. And what you can see down here is the land size for all the 5 transactions is smaller, averaging 5,008 versus last quarter is 9,000, and even Q1 2024 is 7,002. PSF, as you can see down here, has gone up to 1217 PSF, and the quantum-wise has dropped from 9 million to 7.16. What I want to highlight here is that for 2024 Q2, the 2 transactions of detached is actually a leasehold transaction with a land size of average land size of 4,004 and a lower PSF of 866, and the quantum is only 3.9. So if you make a comparison between a leasehold, which is let's say 4 million, versus a freehold, which is 7 million, so the gap is 3 million for various kind of for this leasehold and freehold prices. In terms of value, transaction value actually range, the bulk of it is from 2 to 6 million. We have lesser quantum or lesser transaction, 79% versus a higher transaction, 86% in quarter one. Conversely, transaction above the 6 million, we see down here 2024 quarter four is 21%, and it reduced to 14% for quarter one. And both quarter four 2024 and quarter one 2025, the highest transaction is about quite close, right? 10.5 for quarter four and 10 million for quarter one. We have all the data in our database, and if you need more information, we will be more willing to share with you. Here we are sharing 4 of the landed house. The first one is Terrace at Vidot Terrace, going at 3.88 with a PSF of 2003. And on the right-hand side is this corner terrace. Asking price is 5.8 with a lower PSF of 1378. What's good about this house is that it's actually got a big land area of 4,002, and it comes with 7 ensuite bedroom. Next is the semi-D. This one is the Sunbird, going at 5.65 with a 1446 PSF. And if you get to stay at this house, you will probably enjoy a renovated house, which is 6 to 7 minutes walking distance to Simei MRT station and East Point Mall. And the last one, the Detached, going at 9.8 mil. This is actually the third pricing. When it was launched at 11.5 million, and last year dropped to 10.2. Now it's 9.8. A worthy consideration because it comes with 8 ensuite bathroom and a massive built-up area of 11,009. And within that house, you can park 3 cars. Besides this, we have all this, as you can see this slide. These are all the houses that is available. Do get in touch with us, and we'll be more willing to share with you. I shall pass on to Cedric now. Cedric.
All right, thanks, Michael. Okay, time is getting short, so I'll just go to breeze through quickly. Firstly, let's touch on District 21. Okay, so there are basically just one transaction lesser in terms of compared to the previous quarter. So mainly because this time around, those transacted are bigger land size, hence the PSF kind of dropped up a little bit, which are from the terrace houses, as you can see. So this time around for Q1 this year, the terrace houses transacted are of the bigger size type. So naturally, bigger land size, you get lower PSF. So whereas if you look at the other two categories, semi-D and detached houses, the trend appears as if it's going downwards. So semi-D wise, a little bit skewed by a 99-year leasehold household at this Jalan Bangkit that's only left with 26 years lease remaining. Therefore, it kind of skewed the transaction and put down the average price and the PSF. Whereas for detached house, because it doesn't have that previous quarter, there was let me see. Sorry, detached for this time around, yeah, it's because also there's another smaller land size detached transacted. Therefore, it kind of dragged down the PSF and the asking. So these are the chart toppers for lowest PSF and quantum. Okay, 4.15 and then 14 plus. This one I'll just breeze through. For the highest one is always the Sunset. Once there's any transacted houses in Sunset for detached house, it usually takes the cake. Okay. And then, okay, for this last one, 25 Jalan Selanting, sold by our old colleagues, sold by HLD. Okay, it's brand new, so the PSF is inching towards 3,000 PSF. Okay, diving deeper. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Jurong Kecil. Jurong Kecil, Toyi, these two are okay near the Bukit Timah area. So it appears as if the prices for this Jurong Kechil, you look at the Terrace and the semi-D is like pretty significant increase in terms of the percentage growth. However, I need to highlight that it's because this time around the volume wise kind of dropped so pretty significant actually. So thereby we need to highlight that even though it looks as if it's bucking the trend, but the transacted houses are of larger land size, as I mentioned before. So it appears as if the quantum has grown significantly. So having said that, so in order to dive deeper, right, usually we need to look at a few months record, especially for districts like District 21, 23, whereby the volume are not as high as D19, D15. So a little bit of changes, right, tend to have a drastic jump in the numbers. So these are the things if you come to us, then we'll be able to highlight to you. Otherwise, if you just plainly look at the figures, as Sean mentioned, yeah, it's a bit hard to understand. So do approach any of the consultants who invited you or come to approach us, and we'll give you a clearer picture. So some of the hot listings over here is this one at within walking distance to this MRT, King Albert Park MRT. Okay, asking 7 million and price is still negotiable, 999. And this Kismis Place, this one can be, it's currently a semi-D status, but because of the land size and the frontage, you can redevelop it, break away to be a detached house. Okay, Hua Guan Avenue, this one was actually sold, but the buyer didn't exercise, so it's back in the market and with a price reduction. So right now the price is priced more attractively. Balini style house, very nice, comes with a pool. Okay, and this one Sunset. Why I highlight this, even though this house has been in the market for some time, but previous asking the seller was a bit unrealistic, but right now it's more closer to the market sentiment kind of asking price lah. So if you're looking for a house at Sunset to rebuild, come and look for us and we'll be glad to show you this house. Right, and these are the houses available for District 21. So next, let me just move on to D23. D23, this time around, interestingly, less activities in terms of transaction, 44%. Not only that, it's also lesser in terms of transaction volume compared to D21. Usually, D23 has got more transaction, but this time around, yeah, maybe because of Christmas season, so you see lesser activities. Okay, I'll dive deeper in terms of the value and the PSF, but generally speaking, it's because previously there were GCB transacted in D20 Chestnut area, so that's why right this quarter no GCB sold, right? So it kind of affected the price of the average price. And then in terms of PSF, I call this the pavilion effect, which I'll elaborate a little bit more, okay, which is over here. You look at the terrace houses, the average prices increase and the PSF is increased. Oh, by the way, before that, for D23, this quarter, there are only terrace house and semi-D being transacted. No detached, no GCB. So the terrace house are in the blue, or rather, it's because of the pavilion effect. Pavilion effect means, if you're familiar with D23, if you have listened to our talk before previously, I always mention that whenever there's pavilion transaction, pavilion always tends to be the highest in terms of quantum, especially the PSF, because they're all fairly new houses. So don't need to do much if you buy and move in. So it's very popular and hence the asking tend to be they call a premium. The seller will usually call a premium for that. So because of 50% of those transacted this time around are from pavilion. Okay, they mix up all the transaction volume, 50% of which comes from pavilion, and they are terrace houses. That's why it's showing signs of improvement. Whereas for the semi-D, why is there's a bit of drop is because a bit of outlier, because this quarter there was only one semi-D being sold, and it's of a 99-year leasehold semi-D from Burgundy. So only one this quarter. Whereas previous quarter, there were freehold and 999 ones being sold. So that's why there's a huge disparity in terms of the percentage transaction figures, right? So chart toppers, very quickly, Pavilion. Okay, but interestingly, just now I mentioned Pavilion always takes a cake in terms of highest volume, but this time around, this is pretty rare, unique. Pavilion has the lowest quantum. Okay, but that's because this quarter, most of them are newer condition houses and larger sizes houses. So, okay, and then Remaja, this one is fairly new, renovated before. Okay, and whereas this Remaja, it takes the lowest PSF, but it's the highest in terms of quantum. All right. And then Pavilion, yeah, once again, Pavilion chart toppers in terms of PSF, as I mentioned before. Okay, the 99-year leasehold ones, no brainers. It's all only Burgundy, mostly Burgundy, Verdi. So you always see a lot of Burgundy, Verdi houses for the 99-year leasehold transaction, unless there are houses sold belonging to the other category, like the Jalan Intan, Jalan Uji, those area. Those are the houses where the lease are only down to just 20 plus years, right? This time around don't have those. So, okay, so this is more reflective for the 99-year leasehold transactions. Lowest quantum, this one at Verde Crescent, and lowest PSF as well. Thanks. Okay. Highest quantum, because Burgundy, they are semi-detached houses, therefore the quantum is slightly higher. And the highest PSF, this is the one from, it's a terrace house from Verdi. Now, diving deeper, this time around, interestingly, 100% of the transactions are all from this category of 2 mil to 5 mil budget range. Now, District 23, as I mentioned before, for more budget conscious buyers. So most of them, they have limited budget. They are mostly upgraders from HDB. They will tend to look at D23 first. So this time around, all of which fall within this category from 2 mil to 5 mil. Okay. And I like this chart because it's pretty easy to read. So long as they're 99-year, 999 or freehold, they fall within the range of 1,002 to 1,005, quite reflecting the market quite accurately as far as D23 is concerned. Whereas if once they're freehold, then it's around the above 1,008 PSF range. So this is at a glance, it give you a good idea of what District 23 market is like for the landed houses. Okay, if you need more information to come to approach us, okay, then yeah, these are some of the hot listings for marketing. Very rare you will have brand new houses available in District 23. So right now we have this one at Hillview Crescent. Okay, it's brand new. And then we have some couple of Burgundy semi-detached. Okay, the PSF is quite palatable. Okay, and this one as well at Burgundy Drive, Crescent, sorry. And then lastly, this, you look at the size of this detached house. It's less than 10 mil, but the land size is 7,000. So if you're looking for value for money, detached house, do consider District 23. This one at Galliston Avenue, right? And then these are the houses available in the market right now for District 23. Feel free to approach any of us. Okay, now I should pass the time to Willie to go through District 10.
Thank you, Cindric. Okay, now we are coming to what did I say just now, the big brothers, right? In terms of value, you've seen 2 districts above that crosses average price above 10 million. So let's go to District 10. Unfamiliar to all, but you might not be familiar. This is how we actually segment District 10 into the various areas, right? We have the Tanglin area, basically this western side or nearer to town of Adam Road, the main Bukit Timah, 6th Avenue, after 6th Avenue, and then we have Holland. Okay, let's see how these various areas fare. Okay, so firstly, the total number of transactions for the first time remains stable, about 28 units. Price have reduced, not too much, basically 13 to 12. And the main reason for that is the number of basically the larger units. Later we'll show you, all right, larger units, smaller units sold, but the PSF actually increased by 6%. And you will see in a while, okay, from here, basically for Terraces is actually a small percentage, right, of District 10. There are actually more semi-Ds and detached. So let me up the bulk. So if you look at basically semi-D, so average price increased by 18%, which is a very, very big increase. And the main reason from 7+ million to more than 9 million is that there are larger units that were sold in Q1. In the last quarter, the average size was only about 3,001, all right, whereas this quarter is about 3,006. So of course, with this also bring about a larger quantum as well, because the number of semi-D sold, by the way, has crossed 7. Okay, so that means 7 out of 17 transactions. That means 40% were actually above $10 million, whereas the previous quarter, they were all under mainly $10 million. Okay, now for detached, you see the opposite direction. Okay, instead of increasing price, it's dropped from 15 to a 12.9, you can see here. And the main reason is because there was smaller detached sold. Last quarter, they were all minimum about 7,000 square feet, all right, that was sold, so fetching a higher price. Whereas this time round, in this quarter, there were 2 units that's only about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. So smaller land and therefore smaller price, but with a smaller value, but the PSF and therefore also increased as well. Now, GCB is quite interesting because last quarter there were 5 sold, okay, and this quarter there were only 2. But last year, as a last quarter, the 5 sold were actually between about 21 million to max about 44, all right, 43, 44 million. This quarter, there were only 2, and both were actually record high prices at 45 mil and 58 million. Therefore, you see the average price increases to cross $50 million, all right, per in average. And the PSF has also increased because they are newer houses. I'll show them in a while. Okay. So the lowest transacted, yes, can you still find $5 million terrace or landed houses? They are freehold. In District 10, yes, you can. If you are located, for example, there's a terrace located along main 6th Avenue. Fortunately, because of the traffic, we know that the price houses along facing the main road tends to be a bit lower in terms of prices, and this is one good example. All right. Another one, again, is not less to do with the house per se. This is quite a beautiful 2.5-story house. Our team was marketing it, but unfortunately, because of the not so favorable location, faces the road and also a T-junction, so to speak. Therefore, fetches a very low PSF or 1,008. Okay, something that you can find in other districts as well. Okay, now these are the 2 largest, the same actually, that rose to the top of the charts in both quantum and PSF, which is this GCB at 58 million and also almost $3,006 per square feet because of this, though not new, is a rebuilt, very good condition, renovated GCB, okay, at Gillard Park. Okay, next, let's go to deeper dive. A lot of numbers here again. The important thing that we see here is remember, you see average price is above 10, right? The proportion of these transactions above 10 million has rose from 36 to 40. While 4% may not be a big increase, but it actually shows a significant shift in terms of the high appetite for larger houses above 10 million in this quarter. Okay, will this eventually hit 50%? I think it's just a matter of time. Okay, tariffs notwithstanding. So next, which is quite interesting, where semi-Ds make up more than 50% of all the transactions in District 10. So if you look at this, there's one area in particular out of the 4 or 5 areas that has risen in terms of both price and also in PSF, and that is Holland, right? The Holland area. Due to, and the main reason is due to newer houses that we've observed, they're being sold. A lot of them are 2.5 stories renovated. And from a lot of feedback from the houses and the buyers we've met, it's because of the popularity of One Holland V, all right? And some even said that the Dover Forest that may bring about a lot more of amenities that HDB owners, for example, will get to have, because that will give you a more convenient access to the MRT station, right? One Holland V, by the way, there's been, now you try to go there, it's difficult to even find parking. The last time we were there, just last week, we had to go like 3 rounds, okay? Almost half an hour just to find parking, showing the popularity. Okay, semi-Ds and Holland has outperformed the rest of D10 you see here. Interestingly, actually more than 55, more than half of them, okay, were transacted above $10.8 million. Just last year, you see probably the average price at about 7+ to 8 million. Okay, so again, this is a very interesting phenomenon. Whether this will stay, Can you see the big jump from 6 plus to 10 plus million? For the months to come will depend on the type of houses being sold and versus the rest, because we also see that the other bigger parts of District 10, the houses available are older and larger as well. Okay. Okay, next is we talk about, you see my teammates talking about PSF. Now, District 10, we don't start from 2000, 2002. Let's talk about $2,006 per square feet, all right? The proportion has risen from 40% now is a whopping almost half at 47%. Again, another indicator that will cross 50% very, very soon. All right, there's a lot more in the detailed analysis. So again, come to me or my teammates for more information. What are some of the hot listings now? Regardless of budget, do you need $10 million to buy a decent house? Good thing is not really, because let's start by looking at this semi-D. This one is at Jalan Ampang, if you're familiar there, Coronation Road and Jalan Haji Alias. What has caught a lot of buyers' interest is that this is not a typical two-story house, right? Something that's 8.5 million. Usually two-story, you need to rebuild. This is really a 3,200 square feet land size with also similar built-up area as well, and a five bed, 5 bath. And this is a nice corner unit, right? So come to us if you need more information and take a view. And we're one that's about to be sold, I can say quite soon. I'm sure this will no longer be here in the next webinar. Is this at Mount Sinai Drive, beautifully renovated hilltop with has a bit of a very unique terrain, and inside is just absolutely very beautifully done up, right? And tastefully, beautifully done up. So if you're keen to look for something that's moving condition, come to us. And next two, we have two detached of different different types, different size that will appeal to different buyers. One is something just around $10 million. We almost can share something, a little bit of a small fun fact is that we almost sold it in January. Okay, due to some reasons, the option was not exercised. So now I think frantically a lot of buyers are coming back. Why? Because of the price, right? We just talked about Holland being very popular for semi-Ds. Remember, 9.3 something is almost actually is at 10 million. It's actually the price of just a semi-D. So if you are looking for a semi-D with $10 million budget, I suggest that you come and take a look at this Holland Grove Detached instead. And then last but not least, we have a very rare size and rare condition and rare many ways, okay, in terms of facing, right, the landscape, etc. Beautiful detached house that's more than 8,400 square feet, and the team is marketing this, has prepared a lot of renovation, A&A, and reconstruction ideas, all right, for the buyers to come. Okay, so we have a lot more, even in a very prime District 10. There's a lot of information on the listings. Some are available to the public, a lot are not. So it is important for you to approach your consultant for some of these pocket listings. All right, let's go now to the last district, and to take over will be Cedric again.
Yeah. Thanks, Willie. Okay, so very quickly, this is the last district. A quick dive into it. There are 122% more transaction. Okay, but looks scary, but in actual fact, they're only just 20 lah. So previous quarter they were 9. So this time around there were 20 transacted. So therefore it looks like there's a huge jump. Now in terms of terrace house, right, for District 21, District 11, sorry, there was only one huge corner terrace being sold last quarter. So that's why this time round, okay, huge. Therefore, PSF is the asking. Sorry, it is old lah. So the PSF was low as well. So it kind of make a huge difference lah. Low PSF previously. So previous quarter, this time round, normal PSF. Then yeah, the PSF kind of jump, and because it's huge, so the quantum wise, right, was big. Therefore, this time round, they are just normal size terrace. Therefore, it appear as though the average price have decreased. Okay, for semi-D, okay, a few newer ones were transacted. One of which actually crossed 4,000 PSF. So, which I'll dive in more later on. And as for the detached house, there were a couple of new ones transacted this quarter. That's why there's a huge increase. And there was one that is huge, that's subdivisable, sold at a reasonable PSF asking. That's why there's a little bit of drop in terms of the PSF for the detached house. Okay, so lowest transacted was this one at Swiss View. Okay, Swiss View sold for 5.2 plus. For Terrace house, not many in D11, but if they do come by, it's a norm that older terraces for O1 is not brand new. They're averaging about 5 mil upwards. Now, this is the one that was saying earlier, older subdivisable. No, not this one. Sorry, beg your pardon. Older landed house. It's kind of skewered down the PSF for the detached house transacted in this quarter, right? This is the one. This is the Married Road one. Okay, highest quantum, but the PSF is fairly reasonable. Okay, it's because it's big, 9,000 plus square feet. Okay, so it takes the cake for the highest quantum in terms of transaction value. Now, this was the one that is transacted, the semi-D, a brand new one that's crossed the 4,000 PSF mark. Okay, at Kiam Hock area. Okay, now diving deeper. Now, semi-D wise, for this time around, the Novena and the Dunyan zones, right? They are the one that accounts actually for 85% of semi-detached houses being transacted. And because they are all fairly new, moving condition, the average price actually are above 10 mil upwards. They're averaging 10 mil and above. Okay, and the detached, of course, detached is about 70 plus mil. For the detached wise, one thing to highlight was that there was one sold, as I mentioned earlier, which was subdivisable. So otherwise, if it's a brand new one or fairly moving condition, you may see even a bigger price difference. All right, that is the norm for District 21 we're looking at. Okay. Okay, so now for this time round wise, okay, previously you realized that most of the average per square feet is hovering around 2,100 all the way to about 2,007. Okay, those are the majority transaction, but this time round, because as I mentioned earlier, there are few newer ones being transacted. Okay, 35% of it make up from this price range of 2002 to about 2005 PSF, whereas however 35% of which belonging to the category of the new ones, they are all transacting above 3,000 per square foot. Okay, so this is what we're seeing for District 11. Okay, right. If you need more information, do feel free to come and approach us. The hot listings. Now we have this moving condition, nicely renovated terrace house at Barker Road. If you have kids, wanting to stay, to put your kids at ACS, do come and approach us to view this nicely moving condition, renovated terrace house. We have a corner terrace as well at Wharton area. Just require a bit of A&A, and renovated, okay, at Wharton Drive. Then we have this Shelford area, semi-detached, 3,000 plus square feet, asking 12 mil. And lastly, this detached house at Vanda Crescent that was just sold, I think, about 4 years ago, 21, yes, around May 21, it was sold. This one is got all the nice fittings and fixtures. You're talking about Villa and Bock, you're talking about Jesse, you're talking about Garganor appliances. So this house, just 4 years after the owner moved in, right now is back in the market at 15 mil at Verde Crescent, walking distance to 6th Avenue MRT as well. Right, feel free to approach us for this. And these are the houses available right now currently in the market for District 21. So that's all we have for you for our district briefing. I shall hand the time back to Lily.
Thank you, Cindric and gentlemen, all who have contributed. Do you know that in the past 2 hours we have covered more than 260 slides? Okay. One reason, by the way, I know it's been extensive, etc., is because we prefer to provide all the information, not just give you just highlights and numbers. All right. So all the things are there, and a lot of our clients actually they dissect this, and then after that, with the screenshots, the videos, they can analyze and even sometimes share very interesting insights with us that we may have otherwise missed out as well. Okay, so now coming to the conclusion now. What can we see for from the last quarter and of course outlook for the rest of 2025? Very importantly, and also the recommendations. Okay, so we have stated at the beginning that I think the recent instability, I think is going to cause an unprecedented paralysis. Okay, I think to supply chain, global trade, etc. So this will affect not just landed market but the local property market as well. So let's all be aware. We are, I think, not going to come. I think personally, we have seen a lot of sometimes our teammates as well telling you, oh, this when there's a crisis, this is a time to come in, etc. Well, that is true, but I think our team at HLD we prefer to be more what's the word, more grounded, so to speak, prefer to present a more balanced side of both demand and supply, and not just doing some salesy talk and ask you to just enter blindly, so to speak. Please enter with your eyes open. Okay. Now, due to because this time round it's not just a simple, oh, post-COVID prices have risen. You've seen how through the various crises, because this is a crisis that will never, if it really breaks under a crisis, that we've never seen before. So I think it's important for all of us to treat this very, very differently. All right. Even if you don't soon, I think the local economy, job market, etc., will be affected. Right. Now, due to the impact of different financial positions, very important, because again, at the higher tier clients, how they may not be affected by the economy. Some may even benefit from changes in the stock market, etc. So the immediate impact, okay, when I say immediate, like the next 1 to 3 months, probably until the next webinar, will vary accordingly as well. So it's not a straightforward blanket so-called conclusion. Right. However, if this prolongs and it depresses the overall property market, and not just landed market, I think firstly, transaction volume is going to be affected first. All right. And inevitably, I think value is going to follow suit, like I mentioned earlier. Okay. If right, in the worst case scenario, when I think the trade war continues to affect the economy. So what is important, I feel, we believe that I think Singapore, unlike many countries, is that we have in place a lot of safety so-called measures or taps that delivers, right, that the government can intervene with adjustments, not just in terms of real estate specific policies, but also in fiscal policies as well, right, in adjusting, I think, Singapore dollar and therefore interest rate. This will become vital to re-establish stability, because the government will not allow this important pillar of real estate, right, of the economy to falter or worse, to collapse. And after many decades of experiences, we believe now the government is a lot more prepared than before to help us to cushion, right, any very adverse drop. Now, next is very important. We've been advocating this, is that buyers sellers usually should make your move based mainly, I think, on your family needs first. There are many reasons for you to move. I don't think people move because of, oh, the market is good, therefore you move, right? I think because either it's for schools, for health, for proximity to certain things, or to live together, etc. So, and let's not also forget this. A lot of our clients, because of ABSD, there's this buy high, sell high, buy low, sell low mentality, because you enter almost at about the same time. All right. Usually for a lot of our clients, when we do transactions, probably the mix of between 3 to 6 months, that's about it. In this short period of time, you're not going to see very adverse changes in the market, especially in the landed market. Okay. So this will help to help you to avert the risk involved. Okay. However, the market moves, in a sense, in the next 3 to 6 months or more. Okay. Importantly, and we have been given basically broad indices, even as detailed as we want to, but every landed house is different. There are a lot of qualities, 14, 20 qualities. If you speak to any HLD consultant, right, at the tip of a tongue now, they will become more and more startling as the option starts to increase. Okay. So there are many of them. I will go to the details, but please have a better understanding of these micro factors, because they will become very, very important for you, either as a buyer or seller, to basically understand the market, compare yourself against the relevant houses, and therefore to make the right decision. Okay. With this, we've almost come to an end. And again, these are all the social media channels you can follow us. By the way, this will also be uploaded on YouTube 2 to 3 days later. If you miss this, your friends want to catch this, come to us. We will give you the link 2 to 3 days after it's being uploaded. All right. Last but not, we've answered quite a lot. I think today we have a lot of Q&A just now. I was busy also trying to answer, right? So if you could, due to time constraint now, please share with us whether, hold on, you could launch. Give me a minute. Is it supposed to be launched from my side? Hold on, we have a lot of technical error here today. Okay, give me a minute. Sorry, we just want you to help us to share whether you find this useful, okay? I think even our laptop is. So please do us a favor to help us to share whether you find this useful or not. Okay, there you go. Thank you. From between 0, we see, remember this, 1 to not very useful to 10 is very useful. All right, just share with us, and obviously you can text us, give us your feedback as well, so that we can improve. And more importantly, part of the sharing of this aside, if you have more questions, please feel free. I hope this opens the dialogue for you to reach out to your either HLD or your hunters consultant. Come to us, especially my teammates and I go on the ground. That's frankly beyond the 2 hours and the 200 plus slides. Frankly, the slides we have a lot more. I think at least another 100 plus or so. But more importantly, it's the insights. Okay, the insights that we get from speaking to buyers, to sellers, what's happening. So much so we can confidently say now we can predict what's going to happen in the next 3 months, because usually the transactions take place in months. Okay, do share with us how you feel, and yeah, I think we almost got to slightly more. Thank you for the last time. And the 4, thank you. Sorry, and the thing, but majority of this is 7 and above. Thank you very much. 2 is 10 out of 10. Thank you. I don't think we deserve perfection, but that's always very encouraging for us to know. All right. So once again, my name is Willie. Together with my teammates, we shall end the webinar for today and see you 3 months later. Thank you.